submitted to FDA. We'll talk about Prozac more as we continue this conversation. KSL News Time is 2 o'clock now.
The News Authority, 1160 KSL, Salt Lake City. Bob Lee and the Midday Team on 1160 KSL.
Prozac, the controversial psychiatric drug. Eli Lilly doesn't do talk shows. The drug manufacturer would not appear on a show like this, even if we were to extend them an engraved invitation. So we talk about it, and we have stories like we heard before the news from a man who insists that without Prozac, his wife simply would not function. Lee, who called and said that the doc tried so many things, none of them worked. Some of them had horrendous side effects, including weight gain. But now, Lee said, his wife functions beautifully on Prozac, and without it, she could not function. Ann Tracy, Utah director of the Prozac Survivor Support Group. We ran out of time because we had a news deadline. So your rhetorical question to Lee was, have you had your wife check for brain waves? Is that what
That's right.
What would that prove, or what would that supposedly show?
Well, I've got brain waves here that came from Dr. Ray Smith. He's a physiological psychologist. He's well established. He's been published in the American Journal of Psychiatry. Anyway, this is, I wish we could show this on the radio, but it's impossible. This is a patient who has been on Prozac for a period of 6 months. And according to the brainwave patterns, this patient, with his eyes wide open, is in a total anesthetic sleep pattern. How can you be aware of any side effects happening to you if you're in a total anesthetic sleep pattern? I didn't feel the knife when I was in a total anesthetic sleep pattern when they did surgery.
All right. I will press on with this topic. This is something we could talk about all day, obviously. But let's introduce, before we introduce our second guest, let's take a call. A gentleman who's been waiting here patiently for probably 18 minutes here. Dennis from Salt Lake. Hi, you're on KSL.
Hi. My comments are that I've had depression in the past, and I was put on medication. I never got Prozac, and I'm grateful I never did. I was on imipramine, which is a antidepressant, and I was on for 2 years. I have a family history of depression. My father is in a mental institution for the rest of his life because he snapped and went off the deep end with depression. And I'm about 35 now, so I was about age 30, and I put on a lot of weight with these medications that I still haven't been able to get off. But I made a determination that I was in a pattern that I couldn't get out of. I had to get off the medication because I could see it was a trap. Doctor keep prescribing the pills, and you keep on it, and you keep on it. My father-in-law has been on antidepressants for about 25 years, and he's a total wreck. He's 62, and he looks like he's 85 because of years and years and years of medication. I made a determination I had to get off. About 2 years ago, I decided I had to get off no matter what it took, and I've been off for about 2 to 3 years now. No side effects. I haven't had no depression problems, but it took a lot of effort. And I'm grateful that I took that determination to get off because I could see the trap people get into with depression medication. It keeps going over and over and over again. My mom is a nurse. She wanted me to get on Prozac. And I said, nope, I'm not going to change. I'm getting off. And to this day, she's still cautious and wanting to wait for me to go into my next depression. And I've determined that I don't need it. I keep my life busy. I'm happy. And I have a lot to do, and I have a life worthy to go for. And so my comment would be to anybody who's on medication, there is a way out, but you've got to make the determination yourself.
All right. And does your group really give people, profess to be a support group in that sense, that you're giving people a way out? Because if you do, let me finish the question, because if you do, aren't you, with all due respect, practicing medicine without a license? Because who are you to say to somebody, throw away the Prozac? Because maybe there's a doc out there who knows somebody's medical history, as in the case of Lee's wife, who knows that without it she would literally die.
No, I would advise anybody to look at anything else. other than Prozac at this point. I think that there are all kinds of things out there that are better, but I don't think that reality is near as bad as what you go through on Prozac.
All right, let's go to Roy. He's on a mobile phone, so he's running up a big bill. Hi, your question or comment from Utah County?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I had depression problems for quite some time, and I tried quite a few different medications, and I've been on Prozac about 1.5 years now. My life's great. I've just being in a a medicated state. I don't think that's correct with a lot of people.
How much do you take every day? Do you know?
I haven't got the dosage in front of me. I take 1 pill per day.
Well, how
20
big?
milligrams.
20 milligrams a day.
Uh-huh.
Is that considered a heavy dosage, Ann?
No.
All right.
That's considered about an average dose.
All right. Well, like I said, for all
but
of
it's enough.
All right. I'm not trying to conduct some kind of a scientific determination here by the end of the hour, because for every story of suicide that we have, and we haven't even gotten into the local stories, and there are some horrific stories. For every one of those stories, there will be somebody like our caller, or like our previous caller, whose wife benefits from it. So let me just...
Yes, but how long will they be that way?
All right, Jane Allen is with us. She's a spokesperson for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International. Let me ask you the same question I asked Ann earlier, Jane, which is, look, I mean, sure, maybe there are some real bad side effects for some people, but there are some people like our caller who swear by this stuff, right?
Well, interestingly enough, Bob, as in Bonnie Leitch's case, she did not realize the effects that Prozac was having on her until her husband at one point just said, "What is going on with you? You are different. Your personality is not the same." We have heard this, Bob, time and time again from people taking Prozac. You know, these antidepressants are mind-altering drugs, and in many cases, the individual does not see personally in himself the drastic changes and attitudes and behaviors that he is exhibiting, but other people can in fact spot that. And that was very instrumental in Bonnie Leitch's case. She was placed on Prozac as a simple pick-me-up and then actually tried to take her own life. It's a very frightening story.
She did take her own life, Jane.
Pardon?
She was revived. She took her life.
Bonnie Leitch?
Yes, she was revived at the hospital. She was dead on arrival.
Right, but she's alive today and one of the other support group directors.
Right.
But thanks, Ann. Sorry about that. But the main point we're trying to make here is that when you're dealing with individuals taking mind-altering drugs, these people need to find out from their friends and loved ones, communicate to them, find out if their attitudes are changing, if their behaviors are changing, because in many cases the individual does not see that since they are experiencing a drug-induced awareness.
All right. There are people whose cases are pending, as it were. Either they are still in a state of grief or they have legal things going on, and we can't detail all of these stories, but just give us a thumbnail quickly, Ann, of a couple of these local stories that you were telling me about before we went on the air. The case of a...
Okay. One particular case, he told me that you would be surprised, Bob, to know who he is, because you've done a lot of shows with him. He considers you a good friend. He's held his position for 25 years. He's highly respected locally and nationally. He was over-medicated on Prozac. I believe they put him on 60 milligrams, and he was on it for 16 months and began misusing funds, which cost him his career. The court and physicians both have found him not guilty by reason of diminished capacity because of being unintentionally intoxicated by his medication. And when he says Prozac, he doesn't say just Prozac. He calls it Prozac hell and back.
Prozac hell and back. Now, his attorney advised him not to be on the show today for legal reasons, but at some point...
Yes, he wants him to wait just a little bit longer.
Some point in the future, he may come on and share that story with us. All right, it is 2:15 KSL News Time. We'll talk more about Prozac with our guests in studio, Ann Tracy, the Utah director of the Prozac Survivors Support Group. She just finished writing a book about this called The Prozac Pandora. We'll tell you when their public meeting is coming up on the subject, and also a phone number if you'd like to contact her locally. And on the phone from Denver with us, a spokesman for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International, a group which has opposed Prozac for some time now, Jane Allen. More coming up. First, a news update, and here's Tracy Capert. Prozac, controversial psychiatric drug. Eli Lilly, the manufacturer, will not appear on these kinds of shows, so don't say we didn't try. Ann Tracy is with us. She's the Utah director of the Prozac Survivor Support Group. They'll be having a meeting next Tuesday, September the 3rd, 7 p.m. in Salt Lake County Commission Chambers, which is the new county center complex there at 21 South and State. And what do you do in a meeting like this?
That's open to the public. That is for people that feel that they may have had problems with Prozac and their families, because the whole family suffers with this when something happens.
Right.
They need to understand how the drug's working, what's happening, and what the side effects really are. So.
All right, if anybody would like to contact you before then or whenever, 569-1255.
Yes.
569-1255.
It's definitely open to the public. Everyone's invited.
What are some of the...
You may be driving down the road and somebody decide to commit suicide on Prozac and drive head-on into you.
Do we know... that,
everybody's affected.
Okay. What are some symptoms family members ought to be looking for then? You said that when people are on Prozac, they just don't realize what's going on with themselves.
Right. One thing the man that walked in the studio just a minute ago mentioned is the rage that he felt building up inside of him. Look for that rage building up inside your loved one. If they're mad at everything, they're in trouble. Look for sleep patterns that are really screwed up. They're either sleeping way too much, or they're not sleeping at all, or they're working all through the night and then sleeping during the day. The sleep pattern really seems to be affected by somebody in trouble. Another thing is mixing alcohol or other drugs with Prozac.
Well, that's dangerous with any of these psychiatric drugs.
I know, but what scares me is that there's just too many reports of people feeling an overwhelming compulsion to drink alcohol while they're on Prozac.
All right, Jane Allen from Citizens Commission on Human Rights International. For those who joined us late in this hour-long look at the subject, my point is, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who say, look, the FDA approved this stuff. You know, this is, there's nothing, this is not Eli Lilly's fault, is it? I mean, whose fault is this?
Well, actually, the clinical trials, Bob, for Prozac only listed about 5 to 6 weeks. Now, in many cases, people have been on this drug for as long as 6 months, all the while becoming more worse, and their condition worsens greatly before they try to take their own life or harm someone else. Also,
people here have been on it 3 and 4 years.
Exactly. And you don't know, since the clinical trials lasted for such a short amount of time, who's to say what person out there or when something really kicks that person pertaining to Prozac. You can't put a time limit on when this drug is going to drive someone over the edge to take their own life or harm innocent victims. Also, back in 1989, the FDA was manipulated by some drug companies, and during a probe which was done by Congress, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Justice, it was found that FDA officials received payoffs from some private drug firms for rushing through drug approvals that were based on false or incomplete data. Now, it's real interesting when you look at the number of lawsuits against Eli Lilly. They're continuing to stack up. People are still dying from this drug. Something has got to be done about this problem. It is creating a very unsafe environment for any person out there to try and exist in.
All right, the FDA, as I understand it, Jane, is going to conduct hearings on Prozac starting September 20th. Is that correct?
That is correct. And Prozac victims, Bob, all over the country are steaming over the proposed 1-hour public hearings that we have been told would be allowed. People need to contact their senators and congressmen and demand that these hearings be lengthened. The victims who have suffered at the hands of this drug have a right to tell their story. We are taxpayers in this country.
All right, let's take some more phone calls. This is Bob from Provo. Hi, you're on KSL.
Yes, my question is, why are these people not being adequately monitored by their physicians? Are they not going back and being examined and checked? Normally, I believe this is one of the policies when ever you use any type of psychotropic medication, that they're properly monitored. And obviously, not all drugs are good for all people, and obviously they should be being taken off by their own personal physician.
Dan, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I'd love to. This drug is being prescribed by general practitioners, where in the past a lot of general practitioners didn't prescribe this particular type of drug. And I can name you person after person after person who's given a prescription for Prozac for a full year and not seen for that long period of time.
You're talking about local doctors who are doing this?
Local doctors who are doing this.
All right, Jane, what about nationally? Is this a pattern you're noticing nationally? General practitioners write a script for a year and don't do follow-ups?
Absolutely. Even the FDA implied in a paper that they had written, Bob, that reports of the staggering number of deaths now, which total over 500, and other actions should be dismissed because they are anecdotal and not achieved in a laboratory. Well, I'm sorry, but Americans are not taking Prozac in laboratories. We have housewives, we have cases of children as young as 11 attempting to take their own lives on this drug. Our environment is being turned unsafe simply because of Prozac.
All right, back to the phones. Alan, well, let's try Devney in Taylorsville. I think she was up first. Devney, hi, go ahead.
Hi, I'm currently on Prozac, and I would defend it with all my might.
How long have you been on it?
2 months.
How much are you taking every day?
Just one.
One 20-milligram tablet?
Right.
Okay.
And it has made a huge difference in my life, and I wouldn't be without it.
Okay, well, we've had those calls this hour, so let me just ask you, Jane, I don't want to beat this to death here, but there are people who are going to say this. They're going to say, my life is great, I love it. So who are you to say that this drug is not for those people what the doctor ordered? No pun intended.
Our first question to people like this, Bob, is why were they placed on Prozac number 1?
All right, let's get Devney to answer that. Why were you placed on it?
I was just constantly irritable. I was always yelling at my kids, and my husband didn't know whether he was going to be greeted with a smile or what. And
okay, is the doctor who prescribed it a general practitioner or a psychiatrist?
OBGYN. He's my primary care physician.
All right.
Stephanie, was anything going on in your life at that point that was causing you a lot of stress? No,
I have always been like this. I have been. It's just that it has gotten worse, and I couldn't sleep at night. I could not sleep. I just lay there, and my mind would race a mile a minute, and I just felt awful. And I would think negative things about everything. I didn't have anything good to think, and I knew something was wrong because I didn't want to think like that.
Okay, so for the past 2 months, you're saying all of those symptoms are gone?
Yes.
Stephanie, one problem and one concern that we at the Commission have is that many times people are suffering from an undiagnosed medical problem which has not been correctly labeled. Many times in the case of women, it could be premenstrual syndrome, which can be handled today with diet and medical technology, nutrition. Many times people are suffering from a real legitimate problem such as a thyroid condition. Many different aspects of this can be treatable. However, you're taking something that's handling a symptom, not really addressing the source of the problem, and we're quite concerned about that.
Why doesn't, and either Ann or Jane, one of you answer this, if there's a problem, why doesn't and forgive me, I'm lapsing on the names of these groups, but, the particular specialty groups that would be the certifying board for OBGYNs or general practitioners or whoever. If there's a genuine problem, why haven't we seen the medical profession, these specialty groups, say to their doctors, or have we seen that? Have we seen any bulletins produced warning doctors about this, to your knowledge?
Not that I know of. Jane?
Well, I do know that many doctors have contacted the Commission as well as pharmacists, etc., letting us know that they have had, horrible effects from prescribing Prozac, and many of those people are no longer prescribing. We've had pharmacists, as a case of Maria Malikoff, who refuses, she's an actual pharmacist, and she refuses to sell this particular drug in her pharmacy in Florida.
All right, let's go to Alan in Provo. Hi, you're on KSL.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment that the FDA does not evaluate a drug and then drop it for years and years. They continue to review reports of drug interactions and side effects of medications. I know the FDA has looked at this at least 3 times in suits that have been brought against Prozac by this ladies' organization, and each time the FDA has overruled the suit. Any comments on that they continue?
All right, Jane, if there is, if FDA is continually monitoring this, as our caller suggests, why haven't they pulled it if it's that bad?
Well, one interesting thing that's happened, number one, our organization has not sued the FDA nor Eli Lilly. However, there have been over 50, I think it's over 75 lawsuits currently against Eli Lilly, seeking over $1 billion in damages. Now, it's real interesting that the curse of Prozac is so widespread that the American Trial Lawyers Association has established a special Prozac litigation section to service attorneys. A recent issue of Texas Lawyer magazine reported that Texas personal injury attorneys view Prozac as the next Dalcon Shield. And attorneys all over the country, Bob, have so many Prozac cases they can only take the suicide cases. They can't take the neurological damage, which in many of these individuals is permanent and irreversible.
All right, Jane from Citizens Commission on Human Rights International. Is there a number people can call if they want more information from you folks?
Absolutely, Bob. 1-800-869-2247.
All right, 1-800-869-2247. Ann Tracy, thank you, Utah Director of the Prozac Survivors Support Group. She's just finished writing a book on this called The Prozac Pandora. There will be a public meeting. It's open to the public, and it's next Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock in County Commission Chambers at the new County Complex, 21st South and State. You'll be showing a British documentary that was done
2020.
To British 2020. We'll talk more with Ann and Jane, I'm sure, in the future. I don't know, but I don't think that this story is going to go away anytime too soon. And as we mentioned, Eli Lilly just doesn't provide representatives for these programs. We've tried in the past, and they don't do that. KSL News Time is 2:30.
Know now on 1160 KSL. Information Radio.
But if you're doing it for entertainment and maybe for spicing this story up, once you've taped it, I want to say you need to do that first so that you do have the record of him telling it and the way it was traditionally done. But then you can take it and find out the parts. You know, he's probably making elongating a part of the story that isn't interesting. That's what a lot of people do. They don't realize that you just have to cut to the chase on that part. Just tell that the guy went to the store rather than make this big long thing about how he went to the store. That's not funny. He just went to the store, and then you get to the part that's funny. So that would be the way I would edit it.
I had the same hang-up, by the way, Tracy, until I heard Napoleon's definition of history. Fiction agreed upon. So, you know, you can embellish a little, right?
You never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Exactly, yeah. Let's talk to Mark in Salt Lake. Hi, you're on KSL.
Hi, my name's Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah. I just get excited when I hear about this whole storytelling movement, if you will, coming on again, because I work with a lot of oldsters in my work, and when I sit down and I talk with them, they just have such a gleam and a spark in their eye when they begin to tell their own story, you know, their story of their life, and I guess I worry, too, on the other hand, when I guess our society, we're not tying together the oldsters with the youngsters as much as we used to.
That's true.
And so I guess when I hear this, the movement of storytelling coming out more, it just makes me feel good that maybe these stories and the legacy, you know, that these older folks have, that maybe it will be passed on to us youngsters. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
You know, we have a lot of older people who are going to be telling stories there. I hope they don't mind me calling them that. We have Mirth Burr, who's wonderful, and she tells the legend of Mount Timpanogos, which a lot of people just haven't heard. Since it's a Timpanogos Storytelling Festival, it fits right in. Also, there's Gail Halverson, who will be telling about his days in the World War II program, or the war, where he flew, and he was called the Candy Bomber because he was able to drop little candies to the kids there, and those are great stories of their lives.
All right, we've only got a minute to go. Let's see if Rex can get in the story from Providence in less than a minute. Hi, your quick question or comment?
Hello, sir. I was
Hi.
just wondering if Mr. Holt could recommend a published source of stories.
Oh, there's hundreds. I mean, you just go to the folklore section of the library, and you know, it's filled with books. One of my favorites, if I had to pick one, would be American Folklore by B.A. Botkin, and it's a wonderful book, one of the early ones done, but really it's just limitless.
All righty. Well, David, I appreciate it. Karen, thank you. And again, if anybody would like more information about the annual Timpanogos Storytelling Festival, Friday and Saturday, you can call the library in Orem at 224-7161. They'll have all the details for you. 224-7161. 89 later today, 93 tomorrow. Looks like we're safe until Friday afternoon, at which time there's the chance of an afternoon thunder shower. It's 1:30 already.
Know now on 1160 KSL, Information Radio.
The Supreme Soviet trying to work out solutions to a lot of problems. One step came when Russia and the Ukraine decided to coordinate policies and respect each other's borders. CNN's Eileen O'Connor, though, says deep down the Ukrainians would like to go it alone.
They want their own currency, and that's immediate. They say that they talked to the Soviet delegation very late into the night. One of the people in the delegation, Anatoly Sobchak, warning today in the parliament that without some kind of federation, that everyone would be buried under the ruins of chaos.
Today, the Supreme Soviet suspended the activities of the Communist Party and voted to take a look at Baltic independence when they resume their session next week. In the U.S., signs of more economic problems. Those out of work and out of unemployment benefits at the highest number in a 40-year period, 318,000 in mid-July. By early August, first-time claims totaled 421,000. From the CNN News Center, I'm Ed McCarthy. In Ohio, the American Civil Liberties Union says it will go to court to find a bill signed by the governor mandating women wait 24 hours before getting an abortion. In Talladega, Alabama, Cuban inmates holding hostages and fighting deportation to Cuba have been given food for the first time in a week. 9 hostages are still being held. The U.S. military says aircraft is increasing surveillance in Colombia in an effort to curb the drug trade, but Pentagon officials at the same time are denying reports there was a near collision with a Colombian airliner over the town of Medellin in July. The prime suspect in the Gainesville, Florida student murders has been convicted in the armed robbery of a grocery store. That could keep Danny Rawling behind bars in Louisiana for life because he's termed a habitual offender. The motorman involved in the subway crash in New York killing 5 people entered innocent pleas to 5 manslaughter counts. This is CNN Radio News.
CNN, CBS, and 1160 KSL.
Health Talk from CBS News, sponsored by Therapeutic Mineral Ice Pain Relieving Gel. Here is CBS News medical correspondent Edie Magnus.
For most people, those summer bug bites are merely an annoyance.
Overall, the majority of the population throughout the United States can tolerate a bug bite with, for the most part, a local reaction.
Dr. Michael Tharp, professor of dermatology at the University of Pittsburgh, says there are simple remedies to relieve the pain.
One of the first things to do once one has realized they've been bitten is to apply cold. Cold causes constriction of blood vessels at the site of the bite and keeps localized pretty nicely both the venoms that may be released and any other toxic molecules that may come from these creatures.
Dr. Tharp cautions people who are highly sensitive to things like bee or wasp stings have to be more aggressive to guard against having an allergic reaction, which in some cases can be life-threatening. Everyone, he says, needs to stay away from certain home remedies.
Home remedies often can cause more problems, actually, than the bite themselves. We've had people use some very toxic lyes and bleaches applied to the skin, which actually result in a burn, so that we ask folks really to take very, I think, simple measures. And once again, I think ice or cold water applied to the site is a very effective way in localizing not only the venoms, but even the local reaction to those venoms.
And try to resist the urge to scratch, says Dr. Tharp. That, too, can cause more problems than the bite itself. He says children often have to take antibiotics to get rid of the bacterial infections they cause by scratching bug bites. Now this.
When we asked people who never tried Therapeutic Mineral Ice Pain Relieving Gel to try it, what was their reaction to the relief they got?
I think it's a miracle that the pain is relieved.
This Therapeutic Mineral Ice is really great. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. It's almost like a miracle.
Maybe it should be called Therapeutic Miracle Ice.
Will you feel the same way? Find out. Try the cool feel of soothing, penetrating Therapeutic Mineral Ice with deep cold pain relief. What do you have to lose? Your nagging pain? Use only as directed.
Health Talk. I'm Edie Magnus, CBS News.
For transcripts of this week's Health Talks, send $3 to Health Talk, Station B, Post Office Box 2754, San Francisco, California. 94126.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
A Different Picture magazine, just here to shoot a few photos in your credit union.
Well, I don't think
Thanks. Watch those lights!
Wait, you can't...
President said it was okay.
I don't know.
Now, let's start with you and that customer.
He's an owner.
Yeah, how about that guy over there?
He's an owner, too.
And her?
Been an owner for years. Hi, Mrs. Wilson.
I don't need owners, just customers.
All our members are owners.
How's that?
We're a member-owned, not-for-profit cooperative.
So what does that mean?
Better rates, better service, secure savings.
That's a whole different picture.
And credit union members are more satisfied than customers of any other financial institution.
Except that guy coming this way. He's one angry credit union member.
Angry credit union president.
Okay, guys, we've got the picture.
Credit unions, a whole different picture.
Utah credit unions are a whole different picture from other financial institutions. Picture yourself a part of the credit union difference today.
Payless Drugstore.
Power your fun, protect your family, and save money this week at your Payless Drugstore. You'll find Eveready's alkaline batteries in the 9-volt 2-pack, the C or D 4-pack, and the AA 8-pack for just $3.99. Get a charge out of saving money on the stored power you need for safety and convenience. This week at Payless.
Helping you get the most out of life.
High marks for America's education system may become a thing of the past.
We don't know what to do about a child who sees nothing wrong with threatening to kill somebody and meaning it.
All across the country, schools are struggling to stay afloat, while others are making great strides in the face of even greater difficulties. Jacqueline Adams runs a check on America's schools, education in recess.
All this week, only on 1160 KSL, Information Radio.
Next episode this afternoon with Dave Hebertson at 3:55.
Bob Lee and the Midday Team on 1160 KSL.
Prozac has been the subject of cover stories by the news weeklies from time to time in the last couple of years. There are some groups, including the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International, which has conducted its own crusade against the drug. It is a controversial psychiatric drug. In studio with us to give us a local look at Prozac is Ann Tracy. She is the Utah director of the Prozac Survivors Support Group. Now, you're going to have to explain that. You mean you used to take Prozac?
I did not personally. Most of the people involved in the survivors group did. I had someone who was close to me who was on Prozac that had trouble with it.
What kind of trouble did this person have?
A lot. I would rather they talk about their own case, and I didn't get a chance to meet with them beforehand to find out if they would agree to do that. But basically, I think that there are a few things that I can say. The person took it for over 2 years and has been off now for about a month and a half because they finally realized that that was the problem that they were having and can't remember a whole lot about the last 2.5 years of their life.
Now, there's
what was real and what was a dream. It was kind of a blur for them.
There are some people who swear by Prozac. There are people who say, without Prozac, I can't cope with stress. I can't cope with life. I've heard those stories. You've heard those stories.
Yes.
So, I mean, isn't it like a lot of drugs, a lot of prescription drugs, which cause problems for some people, but not for everybody? I mean, don't we have to say that since the FDA approved the drug, it therefore must be efficacious and safe, which is what the FDA's criteria is. So there must be somebody benefiting from Prozac.
Well, I personally do not believe that there is. I think that eventually, if you take Prozac long enough, everyone is going to suffer the bad side effects just because of the way this particular drug works in the system. I realize that my particular opinion is different from most. Even Alan Boyack, the attorney down in St. George, will say it's probably good for some people and not good for others. That's our Utah murder case with Prozac.
Now, I'm not familiar with that
he's
case.
He's slowly changing his mind, but now...
No, I'm not familiar with that case. You want to tell our listeners about this?
That's Joseph Charles Gardner, returned missionary, all-around nice guy, devoted son. started taking Prozac, went through severe personality changes, started drinking like so many who have a tendency to drink will do on Prozac. Reformed alcoholics are reverting to alcoholism. Anyway, he started mixing the two and ended up murdering someone. He can't remember it. Most of the people that do commit murder don't remember it.
All right, we have the Joseph Westbecker case in Louisville.
That's right.
I don't even know what the status of that case is, but there are, as I recall that story, he was taking Prozac.
He was taking Prozac mixed with lithium.
Okay.
He had taken lithium for quite a few years.
Went on a rampage, killed a lot of people, is the bottom line on that story.
About 8 people.
I don't know if his defense attorneys are using are we calling this the Prozac defense now?
Yes.
Okay.
And they are. But he doesn't need to be defended. He's already dead. But his family is trying to clear his name by filing a lawsuit as well.
All right. Ann Tracy's with us, the Utah director of the Prozac Survivor Support Group. How many people are in your group?
Locally, so far, there's only about 40 people. I have been so busy writing the book that I haven't been able to gather people together as much as I probably should have.
Now, what is the book going to say? Is it going to say, don't take Prozac, or what's it going to tell people?
Well, I'm not going to make people's decisions for them, but I want them to know what the drug does, which I don't think the pharmaceutical company was upfront about at all. For one thing, they don't even mention that they did not test this drug for addictiveness. It's in the PDR, but how many people read the PDR before they take a drug? Mm-hmm. I was talking this morning to Dr. Delbert Goetz. He runs Rivendell. He's a psychiatrist here in town. And I mentioned to him that they didn't test it for the addictiveness, and he was quite surprised. He said, a psychotropic drug, and they did not test it for that. He said it's a little bit late now to tell doctors to turn around and watch for these drug-seeking behaviors in their patients, is what they tell the doctors in the PDR to do.
All right, this is a little footnote here, so let's go into more detail. You're saying that the FDA, as part of their clinical trials or whatever they do when they test drugs, if the drug has the potential for addictiveness, they have to do some special testing. How do you test a drug for addictiveness? Just give it to somebody and see if they have withdrawal, or how
They generally give it to monkeys to see if the monkeys will continue to take the drug.
But they didn't, in this case, they didn't do it.
They didn't even do it with
Do you know why they didn't do it in this case?
Personally, I feel it's because it is addictive.
Okay, Eli Lilly, by the way, will not go on these programs, just for the record, in case anybody's wondering, where's the representative from Eli Lilly? They will not go on programs. They are, I guess, feeling the heat. As I mentioned at the outset, Newsweek and perhaps a couple of other news weeklies I'm forgetting have done cover stories on Prozac. If you compare the track record, though, of Prozac with some of these other similar drugs, is it that much worse? Is it, you're saying it's exponentially worse in the sense of the side effects and all of the problems with it?
There have been more adverse reactions to Prozac than any other drug in history. If you look at a chart and you see how many reactions the FDA received, the reports of those, in a 22-year period on Valium, you're going to see that line go up maybe an inch on the paper. If you look at the same thing with Prozac in a 3-year period, it shoots straight up clear off of the paper. I mean, it doesn't even go an inch to the right before it goes off the paper.
I have no idea if any physicians are listening, and if they are, and if they want to give us an opinion, that's fine. But my guess is this. My guess is that an opinion that a physician would say, and I'm not talking for them, but I'm just guessing here, that they would say something like, well, you know, the FDA's tested it, and regardless of what you said, Ann, it's...
The FDA doesn't test, by the way.
They don't test drugs?
The drug companies do the testing and submit that to the FDA.
Okay. Well, at any rate, the doc's going to say, look, it's, everything that is legally required of me as a dispensing physician has been done. Therefore, all I can do as a doctor, and parenthetically, I'm sure they use this argument with any drug. All they can do is just accept the word of the pharmaceutical companies, the FDA, Right? When they are told that a new antihistamine works well, they prescribe it, and if it works for the patient, fine. But my point is, the doctors are not necessarily the ones to blame for this. The dispensing physicians are not necessarily the ones who take the blame, are they?
Well, I have a little trouble with that because I was studying to be a doctor. That was my goal in life. I wanted to be a doctor. And my whole outlook was I wanted to help people. That's why I wanted to be a doctor. And it seems to me that if a doctor is responsible, he will have his patient's welfare at heart, not a drug company's welfare at heart.
I do know this. I do know that pharmaceutical salesmen, even as we speak, in fact, there may be some of them listening right now, they go out and pound the pavement every day, and they visit a lot of doctors every day, regardless of what company they work for, whether it's Johnson & Johnson or Eli Lilly. They go out,
pound a lot of golf courses.
Well, okay, but they're making sales. They're trying to sell their product. They go in and they pitch these drugs to the docs. The docs, and this is where I buy the doctor's argument. He says,
well, they're hearing that there's no side effects, so they're not liable there.
That's exactly. The doctor says, I don't have time to read all this stuff, and therefore, and blah, blah, blah. At any rate, so much for the doctors for now. But if I go into my doc and I'm complaining of, and it's prescribed for depression, is that what Prozac is prescribed for?
Yes, but you even find them giving it out for headaches anymore. It doesn't take much. If you just need a pick-me-up, if you're feeling a little bit low and kind of draggy, doctors are giving it for that.
All right, so the doctor prescribes Prozac, I go down and I get it filled, but what are the odds that I'm going to have side effects? Do we really know that? I mean, even though you've talked about the charts and that this is the worst drug in history and so forth, I mean...
I think it depends on the patient's own constitution. I think it has a lot to do with the liver and the pancreas and how well they're functioning. If you have a liver that's not functioning really well, of course you're going to run into the side effects immediately.
Are doctors going to prescribe a test to be done after a period of time, or should they prescribe some kind of a test to check your liver function?
Oh, I definitely think that they should. It is listed as one of a fairly high incident report as a reaction to Prozac, that Prozac itself impairs the liver, which is frightening. If it's impairing the organ that regulates the level within the body, it can explain why all of a sudden these people get a rush of the drug in their system and do crazy things.
All right, well, let's see what our listeners think. I'm sure there must be a few people who have opinions one way or another on what has been, in recent history, one of the most controversial psychiatric drugs on the market, Prozac. And Tracy's with us. She's the Utah director of the Prozac Survivors Support Group. We're going to talk about this until 2:30, so if you're not close to a phone now, hopefully you'll find one by then. KSL Talks our number, 575-8255. Toll-free, Northern Davis County, Ogden, Weber County, 670-KSL-1. And Utah County, toll-free, it's 470-KSL-1. 1:48 already, time for a news update. Here's Tracy Kafer.
Keeping you in touch with the world this hour, an Oregon heart transplant patient is going home. BYU wants to do away with inter-campus parking, and Utah doesn't follow the national trend when it comes to unemployment benefits. Details coming up on 1160 KSL Information Radio.
Here's a simple lesson in American economics. Manufacturer A sells his products to Distributor B. Distributor B takes his cut in selling these same products to Wholesaler C. Wholesaler C has to warehouse these products with Warehouse D, who charges his fees before the products are finally sold to your local grocery store and then to you. At Storehouse Markets, we have figured out how to save you money on your groceries. We simply cut out the B's, C's, and D's by purchasing our products direct from the manufacturers and stacking them right in our stores. Sounds simple, right? Actually, it's a lot more work for us, but it pays off because at Storehouse, we can realistically offer Utah's lowest food prices every time you shop. Plus, Storehouse has no membership fees, no 5 or 10% add-ons at the register, and they guarantee to beat all other food stores' advertised prices, even on case lots. So with apologies to B, C, and D, we think our system is the best because it saves you money. Storehouse Markets in Orem, Provo, and Spanish Fork.
Quiet. Quiet. Quiet! Okay, you all know that this weekend is the kickoff to the free labor season, right?
Right!
And we all know that Ogden's Carpet Outlet is the only place to get free labor, right?
Right!
And what better time to get free labor than on Labor Day weekend, right?
Right!
Now we got to get out there and give them all we've got. And what have we got? Coach Ogden, tell them what we've got.
On the line, we've got the biggest remnants in the state. Big enough to carpet 3 rooms in your house, and it's the only way to buy top-quality carpet at half price. And in the backfield, we've got the fastest service. Plus free interest, plus free labor.
Plus free labor?
Yes, plus free labor. And during these 4 days, we're getting tough on prices, with truckloads of rolls and remnants all priced to clear. And you'll cheer for free labor.
Hip, hip, hooray for special prices and free labor.
This Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday at all Ogden's carpet outlets from North Ogden to St. George. And remember, we discount everything but quality.
Announcing Lagoon, your new and improved brand of summer fun for 91. With more thrills, more chills, more splash for your buck. Because now, for one low price, you get both. That's right, you get both Laguna Beach Water Park and all the exciting rides and amusements you can legally stuff into one fun day. And all for one low price.
Come to the Bonneville Classic Car Show and Automotive Swap Meet this Saturday and Sunday at Lagoon, your brand of summer fun. And don't miss the annual Labor Day Fireworks Spectacular on Monday night at Lagoon. Open weekends during September.
All right, let's go to the phones and talk to Renee. Hi, you're on KSL.
Hi.
Hi.
I had a couple of comments. I've had some experience with depression in the past few years and with several people that have had it, and I've known different people that have been on different antidepressants, and that Prozac is not the only antidepressant that there is, and that when it first came out on the market, one of the pros that they kept saying was that it did have fewer side effects than some of these others. And I think a lot of people rushed to take Prozac, and that's why we had so many people taking it, because there was, multitude of other antidepressants on the market.
All right, that's a very good point. There are lots of antidepressants on the market. The doc is going to, I assume, since most of us put docs on pedestals and we never ask them questions, we never question what they're doing. Could a person say to a doctor, gee, Prozac's been a little controversial. Is there something else that would work? I mean, could a patient do that if an antidepressant were called for, do you think?
I would.
You would do that? Yeah. But that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's go to, let's see, Bill on his car phone. Hi, you're on KSL.
Thank you. I had some experience with Prozac. In fact, I was diagnosed as having bipolar depression, and the doctor said, gee, there's this Prozac, and it seems to be doing wonders. And by the way, a major advantage to Prozac over the other antidepressants is that you won't gain any weight, which was a common side effect for other ones. So I took Prozac, and probably for about 4 or 5 months, I thought kind of took the roller coaster mood swings out, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, my legs, the muscles in my legs would just twitch and wake me up, and that went on for a while, and I really didn't attribute it to Prozac. But then one night I had a dream, and I dreamed that I reached out and swung at somebody, and I crashed my hand into my nightstand and sprained my fingers and bruised my knuckles. And I thought, geez, I've never done that in my entire life. And then about 3 weeks later, the same kind of thing happened, and I hit the headboard with my hand. And then I started thinking, gee, there's something really crazy. And so about a month later, I had another dream like that, and I woke up to one of the most horrendous things I've ever experienced, and that is I had hit my wife next to me. And it was such an emotional trauma for me, because I've never touched my wife in my life or ever been abusive or anything like that. And so I immediately got back with my doctor, and he said, well, I think you definitely ought to stop taking Prozac, and I did. And I think that it took a few weeks after that. But since then, I've never had these muscle twitchings that woke me up. I've never hit the nightstand or any of those kinds of things. So I attribute it absolutely directly to Prozac. And so I would think that people listening, if they have any of those kind of things, they ought to just consider that might be one of the reasons, and maybe reevaluate whether they ought to be taking that or not.
It's a real common report, Bill.
All right, appreciate your call. We're 2 minutes away from news. Lee is on the line, on line 5 from Salt Lake High.
How you doing?
Good.
I've got a little experience there with Prozac myself. From what I gather here, everything seems to be negative about Prozac. I left you a little note there about my wife. 10 years ago, I had a very catastrophic accident in my life, and the stresses involved with pushed her over the brink. And she checked out of society for 3 months. She didn't get out of bed, essentially, and she slept for over 18 hours a day. We went in for psychiatric care and everything. They put her on, you name it. One of the medications, she put on 80 pounds, and she's been going to a self-help group that she's able to get down her weight to what she was before. She was a very high achiever. I guess they call that Class A syndrome or whatever. Very successful in store sales and management. And after the initial fall, she was a dredge on society, as it were. You had to she couldn't even cook meals or anything like that at home.
Right. I don't want to cut the story short because it's a good story, but since you sent me a note, the bottom line is she went on Prozac, and
she's been doing great for the last 2 years. When she's on it, if that's addicted, I'm all for it, because she can handle things as a normal person would handle it, and the only side effect I can see is when she is off of it, she reverts right back into a state of depression that is suicidal.
All right, let me just ask Ann, and I brought that point up, Ann. There are people like this who will say, hey, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. If I don't take Prozac, I can't cope. What do you want this woman to do? Throw it away and go back to her state like she was?
It reminds me of my friend. He really defended it and said he was doing really well, and it appeared to everyone that he was doing well. And inside, he was dying. He was dying. He wanted off and didn't know how to get off. So, I don't know if, I don't know. Ask your wife. See if she'll tell you. But if you saw brainwave patterns, have you taken any brainwave patterns of her?
Tell you what, we don't have time to ask that particular question because we've got to do news. But let's just hang on to that thought, and then as we resume this conversation at 2:06, we will pick up on that note.
At KSL Radio, we provide you with...
Talk about a powerful performance. You could get spectacular savings of over $3,100 on a Subaru Legacy L automatic sedan with air conditioning, cruise control, and AM/FM stereo cassette. This one is a definite must-see.
See your Subaru dealer for complete program details. Offer ends soon.
Finster, sir, I've heard HFC's Better Than a Bank home equity credit line offers 24-hour approval.
Yes, sir.
And you can get approved right over the phone. Does our bank do that?
No, sir.
So how does this same-day approval work?
It works great. Just yesterday, my wife called HFC, applied, and before the end of the day, she had a...
To apply for HFC's Better Than a Bank home equity credit line, call 1-800-992-4HFC. Same-day approval subject to confirmation of income and equity and property. Name of lending institution may vary in some states. Product may not be available in all states.
I've only got 30 seconds to tell you everything that's going on during AT&T Days at Sears Brand Central, America's largest superstore. So in order to get it all in, I'm not going to breathe until I'm done. So you can save on the AT&T Answering System 1504 with built-in phone. It's just $89.87 at Sears. And to celebrate Brand Central's first birthday, you could win your birthday wish, a terrific gift you could give yourself. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. But it's only during AT&T Days at Sears Brand Central through September 22nd, where you get your money's worth and a whole lot more. Get the details at the store. Thank you very much.
James, why is there a giant pit in the backyard? Another quick reason for Campbell's Junkie Soup.
Well, Dad, first my termite collection got loose in the basement. Then I had to get the lawnmower out of the pool. And once I got the dog off the mailman, I finally took a break with Campbell's Chunky Soup.
When you've got lots going on, stop for a bowl of Chunky Soup. It's hearty, satisfying, and cooks up in minutes, so you get a delicious break without missing a beat.
So as you can see, I had to dig that tunnel to the mall. Okay, see ya.
Tunnel to the mall? Campbell's Chunky Soup, the satisfying stop that keeps you going.
KUTR, 1320 AM, Sonic Like Utah, playing a bright mix of music with a message today. We're live.
Moved up, and so have you. 1320 AM, KUTR, sounds like Utah.